This is Mayor Buckley on the best show ever, the Maryland Crabs Podcast.
Live from a grungy kitchen table located in Annapolis, Maryland's scenic and historic capital, it's the Maryland Crabs Podcast. With each episode, your hosts, Tim Hamilton, John Frenay, and the occasional guest will dive in and pick apart the stuff that really matters most to you. We're too lazy to actually solve any of these problems, but we can definitely stir the pot. From schools, politics, parking in the fire lane, to those horrible people who drive BMWs. And here with this week's episode, live from the kitchen table, Tim Hamilton and John Frenay.
It's the Maryland Crabs, and we're at the Commons.
You can tell we're at the Commons because we got the echo.
Yeah, it's echoing.
Echo.
Yeah, it's got great acoustics. We should start singing.
I know, we need to get something in this room and make it a little bit nicer, but...
Yeah, like those eggshell things. Mm-hmm. Or more people. We got one more person. We got Sean O'Neill.
He's always fun.
Look at him. He looks like he's going to court. He's all dressed up. He's got his pink crab tie, his Apple Watch, because he's all rich.
Well, like you said, when you manage $83 million, you gotta look the part.
Yeah, the checks are easier to write that way.
Checks. I know somebody that needs a check. Want to sponsor a festival?
So today we thought we'd jump into some of the stuff that's going on around the city. So this is going to be kind of a hyper-local one, but we're entitled to that every once in a while. This should have been a drinking podcast, but I don't see any drinks, John.
Sorry.
Last time we were here, we drank someone's last beer, like literally, and they came in like middle podcast, like, hey, that was my beer you drank.
Yeah, it was on a Saturday. And he's
really?
He's like, that was mine.
It was his last one, too.
I felt
and I'm sitting there holding it, just kind of looked like, and John brought it to me, so I kind of pointed at John.
I felt like crap, man. I ended up buying him a 6-pack on the way back, then put a note on his desk. Sorry, we drank your beer.
It's like that Office Space. Have you seen my beer?
It was a red beer. Yeah.
Red beer.
Yeah. So we're going to talk today about, we got a bunch of stuff. We're going to talk about the Freedom Concert that's coming up, I guess, a couple days when you hear this, or, we hope you're going to hear it.
Annapolis Rising is the proper name for it.
Let me jot that down so I can look down. Annapolis Rising.
A benefit concert for freedom of the press and first responders.
All right, so we're recording this on Tuesday, right? So it's Tuesday, and last night at City Council, they punted on...
Which they're very good at doing.
Well, so...
And I think they were right in this time, but...
Here's what I've decided for this podcast. I decided that I'm going to be very even-handed, and I'm going to try and be clinical on a lot of this stuff. This is a subject that invokes a lot of passion because... we're going to be living with this for years. Just kind of, the shock and the scars that go along with it.
Let's back up a little bit. Presumably, this festival or this benefit concert is an initiative by the mayor's office to raise funds to go to the Capital Gazette Families Fund as well as the Capital Gazette Scholarship Fund.
So great cause, right off the bat.
Yeah. I don't think there's a single person in the state of Maryland that would object to doing that.
Right, so far, with what you just said, yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, these folks... We're
going to veer off in a few minutes.
These folks are going to need help, and whether it's, providing scholarships to future journalists just because of the shoot, I think everybody's on board with what it is. It was done very quickly. Obviously, we are less than a month from the shootings.
Which is amazing. It feels like it's been years.
And the city wanted to do something, and this is what they've come up with. And... it's really been fast-tracked, and I know Alderman Arnett got really upset that there's been so much that's been fast-tracked so far this year. We're going to suspend the rules, and we're going to do it differently. And that's what it always is. Okay, well, we're not going to have this much time for the budget. We're going to suspend the rules and do the budget in a shortened time. We're going to suspend the rules and do something this. And that's what's happening with this. It's, the city wanted to sponsor this festival, and Alderman Arnett says, I'm just not comfortable with that.
What were the costs?
But yeah, without knowing the costs.
Right, because it's estimated right now, what, 26,000?
32 is what they're saying, which doesn't make sense to me. And actually, Sean could probably talk, because you were the festival music director, but you were deeply involved in East Puerto Rican, which is, I would probably say, an equivalent-ish kind of thing, except that you would have a headliner. A major headliner that we're dealing with here.
I also did the Maryland Seafood Festival.
Bragger.
And that was, my budget for that was usually about $50,000. That was at Sandy Point, and that was just for entertainment.
So that's like rentals. That's
that's the rental, the stage, the sound. Now this is, how many years ago? I don't know, 15 years ago. It was a while. But it included the stage, it included the tents, it included the food, and the talent, the cost of the talent. Now, this festival, from my understanding, is the talent isn't costing anything. Good Charlotte, God bless them, they're doing this for free.
Right. Well, one of the things that I wrote a column in Ion Annapolis today, just sort of questioning a number of different things. The number that the city has floated out is $32,000. That it's going to cost. And the majority of that, they say, is going to be the overtime for the police, fire, EMS, as well as what we need Department of General Services from the state for to run this festival, which the city will reimburse them for.
So it's $26,000, and I'm drawing from Andy Linsky's and Phil Davis's article in the Capitol.
It was 32. 26 is what that amount equates to, which leaves $6,000. And I'm sitting here sort of backing this in, saying, okay, well, we have a stage that we need to truck in. Last I checked, there wasn't one permanently at the end of Calvert at West Street.
Right.
You've got lighting, you've got audio, you've got video. Maybe not video, but you've certainly got audio. Mm-hmm. You have security fencing that needs to go in because you've got to fence in that area. You've got porta potties. It goes till midnight, it goes till 10 p.m. So you're going to have actually external area lighting as well. And I just think $6,000 seems very, because the premise was that they were going to donate 100% of the ticket sales to the Capitol Gazette Fund.
I think they have sponsors to cover the stage and the sound and the lights and things like that. What they're asking for is for the city to cover the cost of the overtime and the police, the fire, as you mentioned. I don't think they're asking for the city to pay for the stage and the lighting and the sound. Well,
why haven't they? My question then, and there was one that they wouldn't answer, they were vague about today, was why won't they tell me who these sponsors are? It's like, we'll let this all know a little bit later when we give it a final tally of everything. I'm like, well, that's sort of like the cart before the horse here.
Right. I vaguely saw the poster was released today. Is there sponsors?
There's no sponsors on that.
Oh, okay.
That's the one that has the band Good Charlotte and then Nothing But Jake or Everything But Jake or something like that. Less Than Jake. Yeah, no, there was no sponsors listed on that.
So at $32,000, you'd have to spend, and at $25 a ticket, you'd have to sell about 1,300 tickets to break even.
At this point, they're about 700. And there will be walk up, and certainly the weather forecast. Seems like we're broadcasting out of Seattle here.
I don't think they'll have a problem selling 3,000
I don't think so.
Good Charlotte's a huge...
Wait a minute. You said you don't think they'll have a problem selling 3,000 tickets?
No.
Oh, I'm going to bet that $1.
All right, I'll bet you $1.
All right.
So what's the fee waiver that was being debated that was kicked down?
Well, they need fees for permitting fees and everything else, which is probably a small part of that $26,000.
And so that's the part because they waive that for the MLK parade every year, right?
Right.
And so the way that I read the article in the Capitol, it looked like that Arnett's problem was that he felt that the council was doing this too often, that they were waiving fees. Did I read that right?
I thought he was more upset about having bucking the rules and doing it outside of the Robert's Rules of Orders or whatever, the proper procedure on how anything that moves through the council, it comes in as a first reader, it gets introduced, and then it gets discussed by the public, and then during the second reader, and then it gets voted on the third reader.
Ross wants to run. Let's be honest. He's a bureaucrat, and he wants to run this like a government, not like a business. And you have a businessman that's mayor that
wants to run it like a business.
Who wants to run it like a business, and he knows how a business is run. You make decisions really quickly. He turned a restaurant around in 5 days, right? He did a total Chef Ramsay. And so when you have one person that's coming from one direction, which is the government, and you have another guy who's coming from the private sector, the two are going to mix like oil and water. And so, Ross comes across as this budget hawk and very, very savvy with money and such, but he has no idea about the velocity of money. And so that's been the biggest problem, I think. And that I've always known that was going to be a hurdle for Gavin, is that he wants to make things happen quickly. And you just can't do that in government. That's the downside. That's the sad side.
Well, I think he's learning this right now. It's any number of ways.
Well, also in all fairness, though, but if you're going to be in business, you have to have a high tolerance for risk. That whatever you do is that things move quickly because you take risks and you assume that things are going to fall into place. You're going to assume that you have the cash flow that you need. And government, for good reason, is extremely adverse to risk. So that's, and I've always said when people said, well, we've got to run government like a business. Well, you can't do that for many reasons. The first of which, there's some things that aren't going to make money. Departments of transportation, it's impossible. You can't make money. You absolutely can't. So going into government, you know that you're going to run that at a loss. The other part is that I understand why they have procurement, is that they have those rules in place for a reason, that you have to get bids and you have to do all these things simply because it's too easy for graft to occur or for business to get shunted in another direction. And I think, can government be overcautious? Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, you're right. There was going to be a collision between Gavin and council, especially those who work in the public sector and council, not just as elected officials, because they're used to that culture. I've been on the board of a neighborhood association for years, and so many of the people, on that board are federal employees, and they're great people. I love them, and they're fantastic. They know what they're doing. But, it took us 8 years to get a playground, and a small playground at that. And for those of us who are in the private sector had always said, hey, we have the money budget, let's just do this. And they're like, ho, slow down. We have to get all these bids. We have to, and after like 7 years, I'm like, can we just freaking do this?
Yeah.
And to them, that was a normal course of action. That was, well, of course it takes this long because that's how long it takes, But Ross feels that this whole thing is being rushed, and I don't know if I disagree with him. I don't know, because from the outside looking in, you would say no good deed goes unpunished. You have some people who want to put on a benefit concert to benefit people in our community, who their families who need help, and these scholarship funds. And why is there a ruckus about it? Let's just do it.
Well, I think there's a little bit, there's some undercurrents that are going on saying that this is a little bit, not that it's necessarily too soon, but it doesn't need to be this soon. This benefit concert could have been done in 6 months.
Right.
And
I don't know if I disagree with that.
Had the same effect. It could have been done in a year in the anniversary of it.
Because I want to see it work. We all want to see it work.
And,
I think that's the point.
And had the same effect. What I think a little bit of an undercurrent is that Gavin had Good Charlotte booked for a September 22nd concert, Annapolis Rising. It wasn't a benefit concert, obviously, because this was done well before the shooting at the Capitol Gazette. But it was supposed to be, initially it was supposed to be on St. John's, and then it was moved over to Weems Whalen Field. And this has come up, and I think that this was an opportunity because that actually was a really poor choice of weekends for him, because you're coming off of the, as you mentioned earlier, you're with the Seafood Festival, but you've got the Seafood Festival. The following weekend, you've got Amps and Ales, which is a large beer and wine festival up at, where was it last? It was in Bowie last year. It's going to be up in Arundel Mills, which is not really truly Annapolis, but it'll be a big draw up there. You had the Annapolis Rising on the 22nd, and then on the 29th, you had Anne Arundel County has been planning for years the Twist and Stout Beer and Wine Festival, and all of them are very similar with, the music, and obviously not the headliner that Good Charlotte is. So I think that, that event, if it had gone off in September, would have had a little bit of challenges in getting the attendance that they needed to make money. At that point, then it was a money-making deal for the city, hopefully, as opposed to a benefit. And I think they were able to, now Good Charlotte is playing for free. So, we've now alleviated the pressure from having them booked in September.
Right.
I think it works to the mayor's favor as far as, okay, well, maybe this September thing wouldn't have worked out. This is I don't want to say it's a good thing, but it's it worked out better for us.
Also, getting the publicity out. That's the problem. Is just doing proper marketing is what you got to do. I mean, what's done is done. I feel like maybe we all want this to succeed for obvious reasons, because we all knew the people at the Capitol. We want to see their families taken care of, and we can do whatever we can, the minimal things we can do to help. But in retrospect, I just felt that maybe down the road might have been made a little more sense.
Well, the other thing that he's got to be careful of too is the entertainment they've got. And I don't know what the political bent is.
That's what I want to get into
and whatnot, but. You look at Jordan Kepler, who's, you look at the Wikipedia page for his show that was canceled, and it was right-wing satire, political satire. It was defined, that's what it was defined as. And he was with The Daily Show. Same thing. We've got MSNBC, we've got the New York Times, we've got the Washington Post, which certainly much more now since we've got Donald Trump in office in Washington have taken 3 steps to the left from where I always remember them being a little bit more toward the center. So it'd be interesting to see if this turns into a benefit concert or a anti-gun, anti-Trump rally.
Okay, this brings up an interesting point that I've been thinking about a lot lately. And since Rick, the editor of the paper, he'd written in Our Say a pretty powerful and very raw editorial that I think came from the heart, because obviously he is severely shaken by this, as all the staff are. And I think it's very difficult for them to be to step back, and for obvious reasons. And he had written a very heartfelt and honest piece about the shooting and the reaction and how it affected him. And at one point, he had said something. He had made reference to Trump and about being called the enemy. And I don't think he called Trump out by name, but that set off a firestorm in the comments, which I think you guys are all too smart to get into. But I have to read the comments, and it was the people who comment on the Capitol tend to be, for the most part, at least lean right, if not fairly far to the right. But they were very upset with what they saw as a politicization of this shooting by pulling Trump into it. And I think it is an honest discussion saying, is that a fair assessment? Because the alleged shooter, from what we understand, he had a personal beef, and he was obviously mentally ill, and he had a personal beef with the Capitol, and that's what precipitated the incident. Separately, you do have the demonization by the press by Trump that is he is very blunt about it. If you read his tweets, if you listen to him. Today, he spoke to a veterans group in the Midwest, and he did his thing where he points to the press, and they all booed him, and they all booed the press. So I think there has been a mingling of that feeling of where the press, especially when you're laid raw by an incident like that, where you feel as a target, by the commander in chief. Is it fair to mix the two? Is it fair to combine the two issues of the demonization of the press with what happened specifically? Because you're right, this is going to come up in the concert. And Fred Payon, he said so himself, that he was worried that it was going to become political, and that's pretty much code for he doesn't want to turn this into an anti-Trump rally, which, in all fairness, it has potential to become.
Well, I mean, that's the position Trump has taken, is that he doesn't like the press because they hold him accountable.
Right.
And so let's keep in mind that he just doesn't like when people come back to him and go, you're wrong, and this is why, and they use facts and statistics and data. And
facts and statistics are just such a bunch of bullshit, though.
They can be. I guess they can be, but when you have people that have worked their whole lives in certain areas of whatever their expertise is, and he just says that they're hogwash, I mean, that's just ridiculous. These people know what they're doing, and I think that Trump brought this on himself early on. I think Hillary said words matter, right? And what she was saying is that as president, you have to be very careful about what you say. You can't just go off about this or go off about that. You better have a very good reason. You better have a very, very solid foundation and platform. And really, his issue is that he only likes certain press, right? He calls. How many times does he call Fox News? Once a week. So,
and that's my problem too. And I know that there are people who lean to the right, whose heads are exploding now. And I just want to be sure that we delineate this correctly, because if you're talking about a liberal bias or what have you, we can argue that. But Obama didn't like the press, and he made his relationship with the press was rocky. And the people who watch Fox News don't know that because they didn't watch the so-called mainstream media, so they wouldn't know how rocky their relationship was. He was also hard on whistleblowers. That's a whole different thing. But I would defy anyone on the right who says, with the whataboutism, is saying, well, what about his relationship with the press? There's no one that had dinner with, and he didn't have nightly conversations with Rachel Maddow every night on the phone. He didn't have them down to his club. He didn't vacation with them, and he is doing that with Fox News. But all that aside, I'm trying to be clinical about this. Is it fair to mix the two, his attitude about the press with what happened with the Capitol and with what's going to become a rally? I mean, it is a concert. It's a benefit concert, but it does have the potential to become what Fred Payon said. It's afraid it's going to happen. It's going to be politicized. I mean, it's going to be.
Well, it should be a press-on rally. I mean, let's be honest. It should be a rally for freedom of the press.
Right. And that's something that really bothers me, is the attack on the press in general.
That is fine. You're right. I don't think we should go so anti-Trump or pro-gun control. I mean, let's just concentrate. I've told Gavin this. I've said, let's concentrate on just the press and the freedom of the press and the importance of that.
That it's under attack, and that bothers me.
And that is what we need to just concentrate on. Don't even say Trump's name. Don't even say gun control. Let's just concentrate on that, because we don't know. It's very early on. We in the investigation still for the shooting. We don't know if this kid was triggered. I call him a kid. I don't know how old he is.
He's mid-30s.
Mid-30s. Yeah. He's a kid to me. But I don't know what triggered him. He could have been watching Fox News 2 days prior. I'm not saying he did,
Right.
but we don't know.
Right.
And if Trump pointed to the press and said, they are the enemy, and he just said, he's right, and then did it, well, then we have an issue. We have a major issue. And that's what I'm worried about, is that now people will stop reporting because they're afraid to do the reporting.
Well, one thing that and I don't want to pick on it, because I will say let me preface by saying the attacks on the press did not just start because Obama had a Fox News reporter that they were trying to get a confidential source, and the Justice Department was threatening her with jail, and the press did not rally around her, and they should have. And I think it was because it was Fox News that they didn't. And he also, people forget that he cut Fox News out of. He wouldn't do interviews with them very early on in his presidency until he finally relented because someone explained to him, you can't do that. And I'm glad they did. So he didn't attack the press, but I mean, there's been little frays at the edges for a while, and it wasn't until Trump came along that it became an all-out war. And it wasn't on all press. It was just press he didn't like. And that's the fake news, and that's what bothers me. But I think when you look and say, okay, great, let's talk about, Maggie Haberman and Jake Tapper and everything when you talk about the press. But we're talking about the Capitol, that these are people who they're reporting on games that our kids play in, or on city council, yet they are still being attacked in the comment section, which does bother me because it does represent a certain segment. And there's a couple of people in the comment section who I rarely agree with, but I think are pretty reasonable. And one of which was profiled in the Capitol when they were talking about the commenters. And I don't want to mention even his online name because he seems like a reasonable guy. He's an attorney, but he mentioned something in the comments where he said they should have watched the bias in their reporting, which was kind of shocking to me because he's a reasonable person. And I don't think I'm misrepresenting what he said, but his sort of thing was like, yeah, it's wrong and everything, but they are kind of biased in their reporting. And I don't find that to be the case. Sure, they have editorials that do lean left. Sure, they do. But that's not the same as journalism. That's the editorial section.
Right.
I would look at the Wall Street Journal that leans extremely right in the opinion section, but they have very good journalism.
I mean, when you're reporting about the home of the week, do you lean right or left?
Exactly.
Yeah. When you're reporting about that JV football, championship game, if there are championship games, is there a right or left there? I mean, let's be honest, that's ridiculous.
But that's my problem. I really get upset when you're seeing that all of journalism is being painted with this brush, going they're evil, they're bad, and that is a segment of the Republican Party that I see that really upsets me. I don't like that. And obviously, most people who work in journalism are Democrats. They are. And when I worked in TV news for years, is that people tended to lean left for the most part, but it didn't interfere with their reporting because they're going to nail whoever they're going to nail. That's their job. That's their job, is as the fourth estate. They, according to the First Amendment, they're supposed to keep the three powers of government in check. That's their jobs.
Yep.
So that's when I say, they seem that they're attacking Trump. Trump tells a lie several times a day statistically, and it's their job to call him out on that, is saying that's not true. They did the same thing with Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton came out, I think I said this in a previous podcast, where he said in 1993-94 when there was a church burning, he said, I remember when I was a kid there was a church burned near where I lived and it rocked the community. And the press went and researched and said, no, there wasn't. We just checked. There was no church burning. You lied about that. And they called him out on it. And well, they should have. Right. That's what they do. But they're supposed to have an adversarial relationship. And I just feel like this is a president who sees them as an adversary, treats them as an adversary. That's their job anyway. So all of a sudden they're demonized. But on the other hand, I don't want to see this become, and maybe I'm wrong, I just don't want to see it become an anti-Trump, anti-Second Amendment rally, because I just think that it defeats the purpose of what it's supposed to be.
If it does that brings up a whole different issue as to whether the city, and regardless of whether it's to the right or the left, should be sponsoring political rallies.
And that's a good point.
And, that's something that I would be willing to bet that if this does turn into a political rally or a political statement for gun control or anti-Trump or whatnot, that you'll see the council turn around and vote it down and not.
And well, they should. I think, again, we're going back to no good deed should go unpunished. I think I want this concert to succeed, and I want it to benefit the people who really need it. Mm-hmm. I think it's possible to contain it. Just why don't we have the music? Why don't we have the people speak? I mean, you talk about freedom of the press. I think that's perfectly fine, but I would be careful to keep it within those parameters. Because I think right now it takes very little to. I don't want to say trigger because I'm not making fun of them. I think a lot of people who are Republican are not happy with what their party's become and where Trump is taking them. But he is their leader. He is the head of their party right now. And so, like it or not, they're along for the ride. I wish they'd keep him in check. I wish they'd go back to the party of Reagan. I can't believe I'm saying that. But you can see where the defensiveness of reasonable people like Fred Paone, who I think is a reasonable Republican, he's like, I don't want this to turn into a political rally. And I agree with him.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, before we beat this horse a little bit more, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we try to do something interesting today. We threw out a Google number to the public to say, hey, you want to have any thoughts about the festival?
And this might work or it might suck because we have honestly not listened to them.
We've not listened to
genuinely,
them. I'm looking at this red icon on my phone. It says we have 5 messages. So let's take a quick break and then we will come back. We'll listen to these 5 messages. We'll chat about them for a little bit. And then what's on the agenda after that?
Well, we can talk about the Market House.
Oh.
Something light.
Yeah, Market House. That's I vaguely remember something that it used to be a business or something in town, didn't it?
And Jimmy DeButt says, let's sell it.
All right, we'll be right back.
It's the most important ring you'll ever have. It's the one that goes on the 3rd finger, left hand. It's the engagement ring we design and create for a couple in love. It may not be the biggest diamond you'll ever own, or the most expensive. It might actually be quite modest. But there will never be a more important one. Look at what it's saying, and we'll say, forever. This is one of the delights that comes with doing what we do. Being part of all that here at Zachary's Jewelers. And with 6 designers on staff, there's nothing you can imagine that we cannot create. If you'd like to design your engagement ring with us, come to Zachary's.
Zachary's. Online at zacharysjewelers.com. More than a jewelry store, a jeweler.
Here's to the teacher who spends her weekend helping children who need a little extra attention. To the soldier who missed the birth of his baby while serving overseas. To the EMT working full-time and taking night classes. To the police officers and firefighters working long hours away from their families to keep our families safe. Here's to you, our hometown heroes. I'm Alan Hyatt, Chairman and President of Severn Bank, and we know there are many heroes among us, men and women who serve without expecting anything in return. Which is why we're honored to offer our Hometown Heroes program to educators, law enforcement officers, firefighters, first responders, healthcare workers, and military personnel. Whether you're opening a checking account or buying a new home, we're here to give back to you. Learn more about our Hometown Heroes program at severnbank.com. Severn Bank, here with you.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
And we're back. We're going to try to sit there and see if we can play some of these voicemails.
This is untested technology. We didn't even try it before we came into this because it would take it work, and we're not going to do it. Effort's overrated.
This one is 1 minute and 43 seconds long.
This should be good.
Hey, good afternoon. I saw your post on Facebook and would like to have a few questions answered myself. I have a few questions. One is, since when is the city in business of running fundraising events and taking time, manpower, and tax dollars and putting that toward that? Number 2 is this event leaning more toward a partisan event? I've seen a few people on the lineup where I do believe that the message could be kind of leaning in a certain direction. I also am wondering how many employees of the city are solely just working on this event versus, focusing on their actual day-to-day duties. And if the council doesn't pass this, $30,000 waiver of fees, how much money in the end will really be donated to the cause at hand, which is, supporting the Capitol Gazette, victims' families, as well as the first responders. So I guess I'm a little confused there. And how are we, as taxpayers, supposed to be on board with a $32,000 waiver of fees when we're just now receiving a tax hike? So I guess those are just my concerns and thoughts that I've had, and I hope all goes well. Good luck.
Well, apparently it worked kind of okay.
All right. Well, I mean, we kind of hit all on those. Taxpayers event, we're paying for that, yeah. So council talked about that, the $32,000.
We did. Again, I think that she brings up a decent point that should the city be involved in producing nonprofit events, or should that be separate entities? I mean, I think that's a legitimate concern.
The problem with this is that I don't want to sound like we're not supportive of this. These are all very good questions. I think that's why more time to sort this out probably would have been better. And I think that is a legitimate question is, should the city be doing this? I mean, these are all, maybe the answer is yes, but they are legitimate questions.
A lot of cities actually have like an event department that puts on big events. I think Frederick has one, and they put on 3 big events a year. And that one person works on getting sponsors, putting everything together. And the whole idea is to get people to come into town, and then the whole town just sort of embraces the event. So it's not unusual for a city to do it. It is unusual for the city, though, to raise money for a separate cause. So normally they would raise the money, and then they would use that money for the next event. Do you see what I'm saying? So
right.
It just kind of rolls into everything being revenue neutral. A lot of times the events don't cost anything to the people coming, so you rely heavily on sponsors, and so you spend a lot of time doing what you can to appease the sponsors.
Because she's right. We're talking about the costs. The obvious costs are that of the police department, their security. But what about the employees who are working on this? I mean, that's part of their salary. I mean, she raises some interesting points. But you can see, I don't want to call it defensiveness, but you can see that hesitation. I mean, she sounds like someone, I'll bet you she's probably Republican, or she sounds very reasonable. She wants everything to work. But I mean, or maybe not. Maybe I'm misjudging. But she said she doesn't want it to.
Is a Republican.
But I mean, she doesn't want it to turn. I think they feel cautious that they don't want to see this turn into a political rally, and I kind of share. I mean, we all share that.
Yeah.
There you go. I think we kind of hashed our questions out before, and let's see if there's anything else in this wonderful little Google box here.
Google box.
It's Alex Blind. Just a couple of comments.
Hey, it's Alex.
I thought last night Alderman Finlayson had the best comments that offered context to the fees that the city waives for events. And what that brought to my mind was that the idea of waiving fees for organizations that are small and don't have a lot of money has really grown too large, in the sense that now we waive fees for organizations that certainly can afford to pay for it. The Naval Academy Athletic Association, the boat shows, and a variety of other events certainly make way more money than the cost of the services that the city provides, and they should be paying for that. And I believe that includes this concert. I'm going to go. I bought tickets, and I'm very much in support of that, but it seems like this concert could pay for those services. And given the financial situation of the city, I don't think the city should be waiving fees when organizations can clearly pay for them. So I applaud Alderman Finlayson for providing that context for how to interpret whether we should waive the fees for the concert.
Good point.
I think he was on his bike when he called.
Did you hear the wind in his hair?
Blowing through red lights, Alex.
He doesn't have hair.
Oh.
I love Alex.
Wind in his wig.
But you know what he brought up, and do you know what we went back to? I'm going to call her Brenda.
He said Sheila had the best comment of the night.
But all right, so the woman who called before, I want to go back to her for real quick because I jotted it down. She also brought up this is a really bad time. This sends a bad message when taxes just went up, and I saw that today on Eastport Forum that people were complaining about taxes, and I think really that kind of stung a lot of people. So I think when people see something like this, even for something that's really for a good cause, that they're kind of like, oh, wait a minute, this is part of that fiscal responsibility that has gotten us into this situation, So even if it doesn't, you're like, well, it's not that much money, but to people outside going, look, my taxes just went up 10%.
My taxes went up $1,000. I don't know about yours.
I live outside the city, so it's.
Oh, okay. It was a little painful when I opened that the other day.
Did it really go that much?
It went up $1,000. Well, and I'm not living in a mansion.
Well, I don't know. Come on.
That's a nice tie, though.
Admiral,
that's a tie. He has an eye watch there.
Yeah, I mean, I think Alex is right with this. I mean, and
that's what, and in all fairness, that's what Arnett's saying too.
Yeah, well, I think the city opened the Pandora's box on that, and I think it was with the Martin Luther King parade that was initially put on by just a group of individuals, and it happened way back when. It took a long hiatus, and it was just resurrected probably 4 years ago. They waived the fees on that. They waived the permitting fees. They waived parking. They opened up the garages and everything else. I know when the Irish parade, St. Patrick's Day parade came through, they were like, yeah, no.
Lousy mix.
And, O'Leary is fine with that. I mean, he's not looking to, anything that he's not entitled to, but that's, and that makes sense. I mean, I get, if you're that small and you can't afford the fees, then maybe you just can't afford to do the thing. I mean, it's part of the thing, and that's just sort of part of doing business. Yeah,
I agree. The lousy part is that it happened with this event because you look heartless when you're saying things like that. But it could have been any other event where Ross is saying, hey, we got to stop this. And people have been saying that for a while, actually.
And the boat show does pay big fees. And they donate a sizable portion of their gate as well. I mean, I think they, between the two shows, I think it's close to $1 million a year, isn't it?
Is it that much? Yeah, I guess it is.
I think it's $500,000. Is it $1 million?
I think between the three shows, I don't think it is $1 million, but I think it's very close to it between the fall boat, fall sail, and then the spring sail that we have here.
Well, that's their rent. I mean, they're renting City Dock.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what they pay.
Well, anyway, we wish the best. That's in 2 days, so buy tickets, go. We think it's all for a good cause.
It's in 4 days. But it's in 2 days.
It's in 2 days, yeah.
That's true.
Way to pull down that fourth wall. Yeah,
I'm in a time warp here.
Yeah, okay. It's Thursday tonight. Cheers is on.
That's right. Well, you can get your tickets. Seriously, we are all here to support this. We're here to support the Capital Gazette, regardless of how it turns out. I'm definitely going to be there. I purchased my 3 tickets. My daughter, unfortunately, is not going to be in town this weekend, but a bunch of us are going to go, and you can get them at ramsheadonstage.com. Scroll down like 3 shows or 2 shows, and it's right there. Tickets are $25 in advance, which is a hell of a bargain to see Good Charlotte.
This is the first time Good Charlotte has come back. Let's keep in mind, this band started right here in Annapolis. And
last time they played here was at East Puerto Rockin', maybe?
I think they still played Cafe Gurus, believe it or not.
Okay.
Which is now Leeward Cafe.
Leeward Cafe.
But they left and they never came back. I mean, they just off they went. Yeah. They played HF Festival, and that was the last time we saw them.
Every now and then when you see them in town, or not playing,
but not coming to Annapolis. So this is the first time that they're coming back to Annapolis. This is a big deal. My son's super excited. He's a good Charlotte fan. Right. So
maybe he'll run into him down at the Market House.
$25. It's going to be $30 at the gate. Get a ticket. Come in. Help support the Capital Gazette Families Fund and the Capital Gazette Scholarship Fund. Good cause. No disagreement there from anybody.
Speaking of Market House, it was supposed to be open today.
It was supposed to be open in 2008.
No, it was supposed to be late spring, and then they pushed it back to mid-July, and then they pushed that back to, they said mid-July, about 14 days, and that would be today when we're recording, since you already blew that.
Right. Well, I talked with Jody Danik, who's the general partner, I guess, in there, which is Gavin's former or on hiatus partner. I don't know how it's all worked out at this point, but
they're on a break.
Managing partner.
Yeah. And the latest thing was, and unfortunately, this was last Monday, which was, so at this point, it's almost 14 days ago. They had all their inventory in. I say all of it, most of the inventory in. And they found that the city had a problem with a final inspection on the gas lines. And they had to do something, and there was a possibility, and I don't know what the resolution was, that all of the natural gas lines would need to be replaced.
Oh, are those in the cement, like underneath, or are they up above?
Some of them are in the rafters. I think some of them are probably.
Why would they need to be replaced? I mean, they're not but 12 years old, right?
No. These
the originals?
Some of these are dating back to like early 1900s and whatnot. So, but I mean,
why
again, a cast iron pipe is not, it's not really. Running gas is not going to be deteriorating like it would be if it's in the road. That was the latest thing, and of course you've got inventory spoilage here and everything else. He's hired people that are frothing at the mouth, looking like rabid dogs. Like, hey, can we get in and train? Can we get in and learn the business and learn the building? So Hopefully it'll be open by the time Annapolis Rising rolls
I'm going to
around.
be a wet blanket here. If it does not work, they're done. Then just sell this damn thing.
I don't think. I think that
Can't.
I think you can.
No, you can't.
Let's go to Jimmy DeButts here.
Yeah,
in the
but
paper.
the heirs have already said that they would sue the city to take it back. Because
it's one more lawsuit.
Yeah,
You know what? They
exactly.
can have it. let's
Give it back.
Give it back to them. Say yeah.
All 200 heirs or whatever it is.
A city official said, "This is Jimmy DeButts in the Capitol. First, we must end the historical excuse." I'm looking at you, Sean. A city official said heirs of the landowners who donated the Market House site to Annapolis in the 1700s no longer have legal rights to the property. I don't know if that's true or not because we don't talk about who that is. Property taxes went up 13.7%. It's in the same article. Just a throwback to what we were talking about a few minutes ago.
I had heard too that under Mike Panelides, when he was mayor, that they were looking at all options for the Market House, and when he went on that "let's sell everything" jag, the law office looked in, and they were under the impression they had the opinion, which obviously is only as good as the next court that will hear it, felt that the city had a right, or was within their rights to sell it.
And I hope that I hope they pull it off. I really do.
This honestly is probably the best concept that I've seen for this in a long time.
Why is it different?
It's not subleased. So Jody's going to manage the whole thing. The whole thing. His team is going to if one of the stalls don't work, they don't have to evict anybody. They could just
change it
put
up.
Something else in there.
We'll put candy there.
This is probably more likely to succeed than any of the others. This is like
and they have a liquor license.
And they have a liquor
That's
license.
key.
That's going to help.
Yeah.
It's going to help, especially with the oysters and so.
Without a doubt. It's kind of interesting, sort of an aside. The other day, someone had sent me a logo of a new Market House Oyster Stout that they're going to have a private label beer down at the Market House.
I got his cranky text.
And they totally freaking stole my logo.
Oh, his texts were cranky
Are they
that
calling
morning,
it
my friend.
Ion Stout?
Pretty close. They just like liquid paper, and instead of Ion Annapolis, they put up some Market House, and I was like, so I sent a text to Jody. I said, you need to have your graphic people rework this here. I said, either that or give me a big tab. I said I'll work either way.
So in all fairness, it's Jody and the Michelle Bouchard and Joe Lyon. Joe, they're the three. But I don't know. I mean, I want it to succeed, but I mean, I don't think it's going to be. Restaurants are a tricky business, even though they run successful businesses. This is a tricky one.
Interior, you and I went up to our house in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Very similar to our house right now, the way it's set up.
Explain what our house is.
Our house is
where I left my jacket, by the way.
It's a food court. Which is operated, has different stalls in Baltimore. It's operated by different vendors. Each has their own kitchen and their own stall. So you have Korean barbecue, you've got tacos, you've got
ice cream,
cheesesteaks, ice cream, tofu, and all that stuff going around.
And it's all amazing.
They do have a bar, full bar. Mm-hmm. They've got like living room areas. They've got tables for family seating, lower tables, high tops, and everything else. They do have bar seating out, so you could look out on the window and whatnot, which is very similar to what Market House has. And they have different serving stations, for lack of a better word. I mean, they've got the bar that's placed in there, and if anyone wants, you're gonna have to scroll down a while. But I did a live video about a week ago on the All Annapolis page with sort of the tour in it. But it was, they've got the bar, which seats probably about 15. For wine, they've got wine on tap. They've got beer on tap as well. And then they've got a charcuterie. Is that how you say it? Charcuterie.
Charcuterie.
They got a cheese and meat station.
You're so classy.
That's what I was going to say.
They've got a bread station. They got flatbreads and panini stations. They've got obviously the oyster bar station.
And it's also an incubator too, right? So this is a startup for restaurants.
Well, our house is. This one is not here down.
Oh, you're talking about? Oh, wait. Okay.
I switched back to the Market House.
Oh, okay.
But but it's all operated by the same person. And as Sean mentioned, if all of a sudden the oysters aren't selling, they can easily erase the chalkboard with the oyster pricing and put up pricing for whatever else, T-shirts.
So here's why I'm a little incredulous, is because everyone, and by the way, all of Annapolis are liars. People in Annapolis say that they want certain things and then they don't support those things.
I know where you're going, but I think I got.
So people said that they wanted oysters and fried chicken and all those things, and the Market House that we have right now, or that we had oysters and shrimp and fried chicken and all those things, and then it kind of slipped at the end where they were just kind of doing burgers and hot dogs. But I mean, The food there wasn't bad.
Right. I think part of the old market house was the attitude of the customer, or the attitude of the employees.
You mean the previous, the last incarnation?
The one under Harvey Blondie.
Yeah. Okay.
There's so many damn incarnations.
I
It's hard to sit there and determine who it was. But I mean, there are so many times that I've been in there, and it's just they've been more interested in talking to themselves and either understaffed, and the times that there's a line, it's just interminably long to get it.
That was pretty rare.
I really think it was a service. I don't think you're going to see that when you've got restaurateurs that are running this. And Harvey is a restaurateur, but he's a businessman first.
Well, because let's be blunt, Harvey understands cash flow and he understands moving products, so he doesn't care if with the atmosphere or what is he creating. That's why he'll throw candy, overpriced candy into the corner.
He did say, if what's the thing that they want to do, the cannery, which is the artist incubator. He says if it doesn't work, I'll put a t-shirt shop in because that's what people will buy.
And he's right, and you can't blame him for that because that's what he's going to make. But if you can say it destroys the fabric of the town and all those things, but he doesn't care, and I don't mean that in a bad way. He's a businessman. His job is to make money, and if that's how he's going to make money, then that's how he's going to do it.
I think this new market house, though, is the kind of unique thing is that downtown people have squawked and they say they want to have a fresh market. And they want to have.
They don't.
And I agree with you. I think I don't think they're going to support it downtown. I don't think you're going to see people walking in there picking up turnips and heads of lettuce.
They won't do it.
And some cheese.
They're full of it.
Well, there's not enough people downtown. You have to keep in mind, there's not that many people that live downtown.
Mm-mm.
No.
And we make it seem like it's this booming metropolis.
Yeah.
But it's not.
If you had to walk, like you think about the number of houses that are within walking distance, and I mean comfortable walking distance.
Right.
You've got a few neighborhoods, like it's even a little bit of a hike. Not I guess not. I was going to say for St. John's.
Fleet Street and Lower King George and Prince George.
King George, Prince George, Fleet Street. And that's it. East Street.
But if you're in Murray Hill and all that, you're not walking downtown.
Yeah.
On a good, if it's a nice night in early, late spring where you have spring fever, you're going to do it. But other than that, you're not. And that's why the Dean and DeLuca was so stupid. That was never, first of all, it was a non-starter, and that wasn't ever happening. But the second reason is because they had absolutely no parking. Who's going to go grocery shopping and park 2 blocks away and then bring the grocery bags? It was never happening.
Well, actually, it works in Georgetown.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Georgetown have more of a residential spot that's right there. That's 32nd Street, 31st, 30th. I mean, that's all residential right there. Because that's Wisconsin and M. They cross right there, and that's all residential that are off Wisconsin and M. I think that works. It wouldn't work here.
Well, the thing with the market, though, that they're doing in the market house is they do have a fresh market period, but that's pretty much their kitchen. That's their pantry. That's going to be their provisioning. So if they need lettuce for a hamburger, that's where they go to get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's going to be, you're not going to have the spoilage that you'd have if you had a dedicated market, a separate vendor that brings in fresh vegetables and fruit and everything else.
That's how Annapolis Produce started. I mean, it started as out of the market house. Mm-hmm. And he started supplying the local restaurants. Before you know it, he's got a couple trucks.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then it just grew and grew and grew. So that's how it all started.
Do you think that the downtown restaurants who complained about the liquor license have a point?
I didn't hear too much.
I heard a little grumbling.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean,
why they wouldn't grumble?
If I owned a restaurant downtown and the city was going to, and I agree with the subsidized rent, but I mean, for any number of reasons, but if I owned McGarvey's or Middleton's or Harvestwood or Bedhouse, and there's somebody getting considerably lower rent for whatever reason, and they're being handed a liquor license that they've never had in hundreds of years, I'd absolutely pitch it.
I'd probably be upset. I mean, as a consumer, I'm kind of excited to go down and have a beer and watch the boats come down Ego Alley, and I'm excited for that. But maybe if I was a restaurateur right there, I'd be upset. I mean,
it's tough.
That's assuming that it's a zero-sum game downtown. Is that that you have X number of dollars that eat at Market Square down there, and that if you have the Market House, you subtract that money that they make there, their revenues there from everyone else, then they're going to lose money no matter what. And I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, I think
it might be true.
We're getting into a whole different discussion here, but some of these restaurants got to up their game.
I agree.
When a semi Cisco truck is parking on Main Street and emptying the same food at every restaurant on Main Street, it's not the same. There's no uniqueness. My pasta is just as good as your pasta, or my crab cake, and fries is the same as the guy next door. The The recipes are similar. The food is standard at best. There's not that many great restaurants down there.
So we go to Ireland every couple of years, and it's funny, the towns in Ireland are laid out the same way that Annapolis is that you have a hill coming down and then it curves away, and that at the bottom of the hill is where all the tourists are for whatever reason, and that's where all the tourist restaurants are. So whenever we visit a town like that in Ireland, we always go up the street, because I'll never eat down the street, because you know that that's just the tourist fare,
right? And
you go in there and you have like it's tourist price, and you get it. It's adequate, but it's not anything special. I don't think Annapolis is very different. Iron Rooster is different.
Iron Rooster's good. They're doing different things.
Yeah, but I mean, I would agree with you that when you go down Main Street, that it's not bad, but there's a certain amount of laziness that is kicked in.
Yeah.
And, I'm speaking as a non-restaurateur, so I can be critical. It's easy for me to do that. Yeah. But there's a lot of restaurants I think that have really have upped their game and are really good. I'm looking at Osteria.
Never ate there.
It's fantastic.
It's very, very, very good.
It's amazing.
Preserve is not my thing.
Yeah, I do like preserve. But that's up
level.
Street.
Yeah, you'd have to go. You have to go up, I think. Yeah, and even Mason's Lobster Rolls, I think, is kind of fun.
That's very good. I like that.
Pips is downtown. I think Pips tends to be local, and the Naval Academy, and they're awesome.
Although I do like the crepes. Okay, so now I just proved myself.
No, you haven't, because we're just trying not to say these places out loud, and we all and everyone listening knows who we're talking about. It's just I will not name a name, but I was at the beach a few weeks ago, and some friends of ours said that we were downtown, and we were at a place downtown, and we were sitting at the table, and a cockroach went across the table, and we caught it with our glass, and we called the waiter, and they comped our meal and everything. And I said, I can tell you who it is, because we saw a mouse there when we were there last, and that was the last time we went. So I agree with you. But is it different than any tourist place? I don't know. Maybe there's a need for that, because then they're not invading our restaurants.
I have a question. Why hasn't one restaurant put people in colonial wear?
I know which one was it.
And done like a theme.
Mutton?
And done themes, like what was available in that time period. Why hasn't one restaurant done that in Annapolis?
Yeah, tourists would love that.
Yeah. I mean, it's ripe for the picking.
And Middleton would be ideal for that.
Yeah.
Middleton's, King of France, or whatever that's called now, Treaty of Paris. Why haven't they done this and served family meals and had people in costume?
Debbie Gosselin listens to this. Hey, Debbie, that would be a good idea for you guys.
Does she really listen?
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Debbie.
You were about to talk smack. We'll take that off the list. Well, I wish them the best. I really genuinely am excited for it. I think if anyone can make it work, they can, and they better, because other than that, I think this is the last try.
Yeah. Jody's giving it his all. I'll tell you that. He's busting his tail. Him and Joe both have been busting their tail trying to get this place open.
I'm excited because I do like it. I mean, I even went at every incarnation since 2003. I've gone every time, and I've enjoyed it. I didn't walk in and go, oh, this is awful. When I've gone there, I've gotten a sandwich when Vaccaro's was there. I went there. They had a great pizza place there for a minute. That was the best pizza in town. There was Seaside Pizza or something like that. They were the ones who left in the middle of the night along with everyone else. I think whenever I've been there, I'll go like Midnight Madness, and I'll go to Parade of Lights, and I like to sit there and watch the stuff. And now I can have a beer and do that, or at least a beer I didn't bring in a bag. So.
Well, it's kind of interesting that the mayor announced, too, at the Downtown Annapolis Partnership meeting last week, 2 weeks ago, that they have grants in place and they have plans in place to expand Hopkins Plaza, which is the outside section of Market House, to cut across and encompass the current flagpole circle.
That's a horrible, horrible, horrible idea.
So where are you on that?
I can't stand that they're going to get rid of the traffic circle.
And they're going to put a traffic signal at the bottom of Main Street, so traffic
BS.
would be able to come either straight across out.
I hate that idea.
Or
wait, break that down, because I didn't pay attention to that.
They're putting a T intersection at the bottom of Main Street.
So where would that be? So it's coming. So from Market House out to the flagpole. And then where would the light go?
To get from market space, then you would have to you'd come out. You would do pretty much the way you do it right now, but you
take a right or a left.
Correct. And then so it'll have a two-way thing at the traffic light, just for that little bit from Green Street down to Compromise Street.
Right.
Traffic light will be there, but they're just eliminating that circle.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
It's 10,000 cars a day go through that.
Alex Pline?
Yeah.
It's horrible idea.
They're looking to, but I mean, part of this is part of the whole thing. They're going to re-brick around the whole market house.
Yeah, and they want to put an amphitheater in there, right?
In the Hopkins Plaza as well.
Right, with cars and buses and the noise from that,
trucks. Yeah.
It makes zero sense.
And then the St. Mary, I don't know the mechanics of St. Mary's in the morning, but the people are coming.
Oh, don't get me started.
Well,
that's
the point of having you here. Get you started.
Only took an hour and a half. But that's
we warmed them up, folks.
No. This
don't get me upset.
I've studied
all right,
this.
calm down.
I've looked at this. The traffic studies that they used to justify this are faulty. Okay, it started
fake studies.
Fake studies, fake news. No, this started a few years ago. What they did is they had someone come in and they measured how frequently various spots were full, not how many cars came and went in certain spots. And they kept saying, why are the spots in front of Mills and at that time BB&T Bank and what's the pizza place there? Mancha's.
Yes.
They're never empty, so they're never used. And I said, whoa. Those are 20-minute spots.
Right.
They're always used. It's just that they're more frequently empty because people pull in, pick up their stuff, and they go.
Or they want to park for 2 hours and they
And
see
you know
they
what
can't.
their response was? Oh, we didn't know that.
Well,
then your whole traffic study is faulty and flawed, and now we're basically relying on that traffic study to justify a T intersection instead of a circle.
does this go into the Ferris wheel category? Like just something that's not happening?
I hope so. I
mean, he made it sound like that along with the bike share program,
Which is good.
the grants, he's got grants in place to make that happen.
I'd like to see that.
It makes no sense to have an amphitheater next to a busy intersection. You put an amphitheater somewhere where you want people to go. You do it at the end of City Dock.
Yeah.
That's where you do it. You don't do it in the corner of a busy intersection.
Well, you'd also have to worry about what effect it might have on like the Summer Garden Theater, because I know that a couple times they used to have music out in the Harvey iteration out on Hopkins Plaza at night, and they used to squawk that it used to come up over, some of the rock bands would come over the Summer Gardens walls.
I feel like this would back traffic all the way back into Eastport.
Oh, it'd be horrible for Eastport. Horrible.
Well, it gets worse because then you've also got that whole plan to create a bike lane on Main Street.
So less cars.
We'll see how it goes. Well, we've solved the problem of Annapolis Rising. Go get your tickets.
You got Sean worked up in the process. So
yeah.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, get your tickets at Ramshead.
I was good for a while. I was so well behaved.
And I was disappointed, frankly.
See, we need beer.
Yeah, I know. Doing this sober sucks.
But yeah, get your tickets to Annapolis Rising. Get them at ramsheadonstage.com or buy them at the gate. Do go out there. Do support our friends at the Capital Gazette and everything that they're going to need help with for years and years.
And subscribe to Capital Gazette.
Yep. And we will talk with you next week. We have no idea what we're doing, though.
Yeah, I kind of like this. We're in summer mode. We're just winging it.
Yeah. All right. Bye, Sean.
Bye.
This has been the Maryland Crabs Podcast with Tim Hamilton and John Fernay. Sure to follow them in all the regular places, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and online at themarylandcrabs.com. Take a moment to rate us on iTunes. Now, get the hell out of my kitchen. Seriously, go!
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.